All right, welcome everyone to part 2 of our Read Differently book experience. That was not the name in the first video, so don't worry, I am well aware of that. And this is part 2. We're doing chapters 4 through 6 of our book, The Last Arrow. I just had a mental block. That's okay. So I would first like to ask my participants if there is anything that happened this week that you can say you stepped out, you did something different, something new, or even just how you think and feel about your life. Any difference this past week?
Well, I felt like because of the situation, how the circumstances right now, I'm currently waiting to be called back to go to work. So I think to more or less to prepare myself because of my job, like I explained earlier, I have a skill set, and my skill set is photo retouching and things like that, working on a computer. So because of this time being at home, I really haven't. I spent a little time in the beginning. It's been over 2 months now, so I had a little break. So I think I need to go back and refresh my skills, so that way when I get a call back, I'll be ready to go and no holding back. So yeah, I'm ready.
Investing in yourself.
Pretty much. I think before this pandemic, before this time, this break, I actually kind of started to feel like I was letting loose a little much, kind of not working as hard as I should have been, and kind of getting used to, laying back a little bit. And I don't think that's not me. I usually like to work hard and feel accomplished at the end of the day. And maybe it's because it was a little slow. But I think I needed this time to recharge my batteries,
Yes.
get back into it. So
that's good.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like both me and Rolando are in similar situations where I also am not working right now because of the pandemic. And at first it was just like, at first I didn't know if I'd be going back to work or this or that. So it was relaxed. And then I found out I wouldn't be going back to work, and it was just like panic, anxiety, planning, doing all this stuff. And now I'm kind of getting to the place where, like, one of the things that stuck out to me from last week's meeting was about how we have a tendency to put off things until thinking there's always going to be a tomorrow.
Yeah.
And this and that. And like, that really spoke to me too, because I was just spending a lot of my time, all this free time I had, just worrying about the future or thinking about the past or all this stuff, instead of like investing in each day and each moment. And now kind of like, as much as I'm planning and making the next step in my life or whatever, there's also an element of my day-to-day life where it's like, each day is an opportunity to work on yourself, on your future self. And like, yeah, so specifically there is, so not to make this a super long story, but I was very happy at my job, but there was a big part of me that knew that I would get to a point where I would need to move on to something better, because my job was like very fun and creative, but not a job with like great benefits or great pay. And now that I'm realizing there may be an opportunity for me to go back to that job in the fall, part of me is thinking like, I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. And like, it's scary because obviously going back makes you feel secure and safe. But I also know in my heart that that's not something that's going to benefit my future self. So yeah, I don't know what's happening with me.
And especially for you being a planner, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm letting go. Like, I've made my plans and now I'm letting go, or it's like, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't want it to like steal time away from me. You know what I mean? Like, I can't just be stressing about it because, you know, life is going to have its stressful moments and you can't let that rob you of your day to day. You know what I mean?
Bravo. Bravo to both of you. Good job. Good job. For me, it's this haircut. That's what I did this week. The story behind it is I've always admired women who can just go out with a short haircut, look great, and have this confidence. And I suffered a lot with, you know, self-esteem growing up. And so for me, where, you know, some women probably grow their hair for attention, I was growing my hair to hide behind it. So I would wear my hair down in my face a lot. Something my mom would say to me since I was a teenager: take the hair out of your face, stop hiding. What is this thing in your face, you know? But it just was, you know, what I had to deal with. And on Saturday, this past Saturday, I was supposed to go out with some girlfriends and we were supposed to go berry picking upstate New York. And it just seemed to be one thing after another. The light post in front of my house, the transformer blew, and there were live wires hanging down in front of our house, on a car, across the street, gashing on top of the car, underneath the car, by the tire, in the middle of the road. I mean, we had firefighters, and it was, I mean, our road was taped off with the yellow tape and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, we no longer have electricity right now. They actually physically cut the lines. I don't know if I can make it. And then thankfully, you know, a few hours later, we got back our power. Con Ed finally came and they did their thing. Thank you. So that was awesome. But then I was just like, that was Friday, and Saturday rolls around, and I'm just like, where's this storm? We were, you know, saying maybe we can't go because of the storm watch, and it was supposed to be all weekend long. And I'm sitting out on the porch with my great aunt, and I see not even one gray cloud in the sky. And by this time it was maybe almost noon, and now I am upset. I'm like, listen, I do not want to live like this again. Making plans, this would be the first time I'm having this kind of experience with women that I really appreciate. And I'm just like, no, this is not okay. I can't be living my life where I want to do something and then something else always happens and I just give up. So I was like upset, and I'm like texting them. I'm like, hey, I don't ever want to feel like this again. I know we can't make up for it, but how about I just jump in my vehicle, which I can in the next half an hour, and I can come up to Manhattan and we can find somewhere to go do something. And by that time, there was torrential rain by them with lightning and thunder. And they were like, we don't think so. And I was like, and I was just about to type okay. And I just waited a few seconds, and I can't tell you how marvelous waiting a little bit before making a decision will do. So I was about to type okay and just send, and I just waited and I just breathed. And in breathing, I looked up, and across the street, I see a neighbor getting his hair cut right on his porch. And I'm looking and I'm like, Lord, am I supposed to cut my hair today? And I'm like, So I'm watching him, and the barber, he is working more than talking. So I was like, okay, that's a good sign. He's concentrating on what he's doing. I saw two older gentlemen at the bottom of the steps because he had a really high walk up to that house. And I'm looking and I'm like, okay, there are older people around there. Are they also waiting to get their hair cut? You know, long and short, I now starting to feel my heart like beat. And I'm like, okay, if it's beating like this, that means I need to just do it. It is outside my comfort zone. It's outside my personality to just do this sort of thing. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. So before I could get too scared and back out, I ran inside, grabbed a mask, put on my shoes, even without socks, something that I don't do. And I stepped across the street. And so there's a lady, she was there, you know, washing her side part of the sidewalk. And I was like, good afternoon. And she's like, hello. And then I just looked up and said, do you do women's hair? And he just kind of nodded, yeah. I was like, I want to cut my hair. And then one of the gentlemen said, no. I'm sorry, that is not how it works here. So I'm like looking at him like, okay. He says, I am now his agent, right? You can't just come and speak to him directly. You need to come and speak to me. I said, okay. So I'm speaking to you. I want my hair done. And he says, well, you're going to have to make an appointment. I said, well, this is the appointment. When he's finished with that head, step over across the street and do mine. And he started laughing. He's like, well, you know, this last minute thing, he's gonna charge like a lot of money, like 3 times more. And I'm just like, have you seen me? I'm too cute. He can't charge me 3 times more. And he's like, ooh, you're confident. And I'm just like, he said that. And all of a sudden in my head, what I thought was just playing around, just being jovial, someone saw as confidence. My hair wasn't gone yet. And I was like, oh, that's what confidence is. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's me. So, you know, we chit chat some more, bantering. And then he looked at the young man, he says, you gonna do it? And he kind of just, I'm like, this guy, is he like shy? Like he's not really talking. And the barber just kind of nodded his head. So I said, okay. I didn't ask the price or anything. And then as the older gentleman was walking away to go to his house, I said, I just want everything to come off. And he turned around and was like, are you okay? Are you okay? Did something happen to you? I said, no. He's like, what do you mean you want to take off all your hair? Just take it off? Everything off? I said, yeah, you can leave a little on top. He's like, oh no, darling, something happened to you. What happened to you, my dear? What's wrong? I said, nothing is wrong. I said, I've always wanted to do this and I keep on shying away. And today is the day. I saw him there. But the other part of the story, and I'm sorry this is so long, the other part of the story is that the night before I was doing my sister's hair. And as I was doing her hair, because I've been talking about cutting my hair since the quarantine, and she said, have you found anybody yet to cut your hair? I'm like, no. And I'm tired of, you know, looking on YouTube and they're trying to find some great barber in New York. I said, you know what? I've decided the Lord will send him to me. Whoever it is, you know, I'm not going to search. So that was between 11 and 11:30 Friday night. And afternoon, I look up and there is my answer to prayer. And so his name is Roger. And if he could have been here, he would have to give his side of the story of seeing someone. And he kept on saying to me, you're brave. You're really brave. Nobody just has someone cut their hair like that. And he's like, I don't cut strangers' hair, you know? And so it was a really interesting thing because when I first told a family member that I was going to do it, she was like, no, you don't know him. You don't know what he can do. What if he messes it up? I said, well, guess what? If he messes it up, I just have to suck it up and wait until my hair grows back. wear lots of hats, something. I can do the African wrap thing, you know. So the same family member who was trying to tell me no, not to do it, ended up doing her hair after mine. So now we look like twins, according to my sister, and we have two low haircuts going on in the house. So that was really, really cool, and that was my way of doing something like I've been putting off for many, many years. Because of this awesome book, I have now stepped out and did something new. So that being said, I want to welcome Jessie, who is here for the first time. I will have to send, I think I sent Jessie the video already of chapters 1 through 3, but now we're going to go into chapter 4 through 6. I am going to go ahead and stop my video so that it doesn't come up as I'm speaking, and let's do this. All right. So here we are. This is the last arrow. Read differently, book experience, 4 through 6. What will give you solace is a life with nothing left undone, one that's been lived with relentless ambition, a heart on fire, and no regrets. On the other hand, what will haunt you until your final breath is who you could have been but never became, what you could have done but never did. Chapter 4 is Set Your Past on Fire. And here you see that sometimes to set your past on fire means to break free from the expectations of others. Chapter 4 highlights relationships, character, and grit. For far too long, we live our lives being what others want us to be rather than who we are supposed to be. There is a difference between setting the past on fire and burning bridges. It's a dangerous thing to burn bridges we might have to cross again. The advice from scripture to be at peace with all men, if at all possible, this really is the best posture to live our lives. So please heed this warning. Be careful where you set your fires. Burning bridges is about setting other people on fire, which is not recommended. Erwin shares 2 stories of 2 physical fires in chapter 4. The first one was his family home as a child. His mom trying to pick up unidentified pieces and hoping to console his brother of the various trophies lost. But his brother seemed unmoved at the loss of the home being burnt down, as if to say, if trophies were highlights of their lives, then their lives were not worth living going forward. This is an example of the past being burned. The following story was of a young man by the name of Scott. He was at a college during their open house day. And is, of course, you know, this is a very important day for prospective students and their parents. And Scott decided to start a fire. He set a fence on fire and screamed at the onlookers. Needless to say, he was never allowed to attend that college then, nor at any other point in time in the future. He burned his bridges. Setting your past on fire is not about self-destructive behavior. It's quite the opposite. It's about making hard decisions to leave behind what would steal you from the future God intends for you. The journey into our best future actually will pass through what feels like a furnace. And so now we have come to our first activity. This is our burning practice. And what I mean by that is I'm going to show you some images, and I want you to say whether you think it's burning the past or burning bridges. You can give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, or you can actually speak. So please unmute. And here we go. I'm going to minimize us so. Is this burning the past or burning bridges?
Past.
Yeah, say past too.
All right, Jesse, what do you think?
Past.
Sometimes setting your past on fire is less about walking away from it than rising above it. Good job.
Ooh.
I know, right?
Not the past.
So you think this is burning bridges?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know, honestly. I don't know one way or the other for me.
All right, so Rolanda, why do you think, and Jesse, why do you think this is burning bridges? What about this photo?
Maybe because I'm looking at contextually the tearing of the opening, and it's kind of like almost as if forcing your way through, or I don't know. That's kind of what I get from that. But
okay. Jesse,
Yeah.
how do you think
Yeah, that sign shows like moving on. I would define it as like, tearing, like moving on, coming out of it.
Okay. Chantel, burning the past or burning bridges?
I don't know.
That's okay. That's okay. There is no right or wrong answer because really it is about perspective.
Yeah.
And this was my perspective that sometimes, and this is based on what Erwin said, sometimes your future will call you to stand right in the middle of your past. And the only way to set others free is by being an inspiration and giving hope to those around you. So breathe. Sometimes in burning the past, it doesn't mean that you're getting away from it. We saw the first one, it's rising above it. This one, it's staying where you're at and becoming an inspiration for others. So yes, she is tearing through. She is, in my mind, between her past and her future. This is really, really hard. This is a rough one to take, and I wish you could see all of that. Yeah, so I think this one is pretty easy. Burning past or
Go with
burning bridges?
Past.
Who says past?
Me.
Jesse says burning the past.
I say burning the past too.
You say burning the past. Chantel?
Oh, bridges.
Bridges. Yeah, because burning bridges really is about hurting others, and that's what this is really about. It's actually a man's fist, and it's showing a way to say that he's been violent. Let me just pull this up quickly so you can see it. God's future will never come to us at the cost of our character. That's really important. we're not supposed to be going out and finding ways to hurt and harm others. But this one is our last photo, and it's very, very interesting.
Burning past.
I'm gonna. Is the picture about the mouse or the fox?
We don't know.
I think it's about the mouse.
It is.
All about perspective, what you're seeing.
I'll go with Bridges.
Okay. One pass, one Bridges, and Chantel?
I'm gonna go with past because I'm gonna try to be optimistic and say that the mouse might use his little axe to help or the fox.
Yeah. All right. I saw it that way too. Jesse, if he was using his little axe to make those cuts on his face, on the fox's face, yes, that would be Bridges. But if
because it's like he's hurting, so.
cutting away the thorns, then it actually is about burning the past. And this is actually from a children's storybook. So here, unfortunately, you can't read everything that's here because it's at the top. I'm sorry about that. So set the bitterness on fire. Light it up with forgiveness and watch it burn. Put the wounds behind you. Put the betrayal behind you. Put the failures behind you. Or better yet, cut them into pieces, turn them into an altar, and let them burn. Sometimes, in even trying to help others, you may nick them. Yeah, they may get a little scratch here and there, but it is not burning bridges. As you can see, the fox can tell he's being helped. All right, we're already at chapter 5. And chapter 5, refuse to stay behind, it was the title. And it's really about courage and conviction. It's refusing to take no for an answer when you know the opportunity is for you, and yet refusing to say yes to an alternate plan when you've already made a decision backed by God. And so the story, this chapter starts off with World Cup. Yeah, it's all about soccer. And of course, this is not just any game, but this was the 2014 FIFA World Cup held in Brazil. And if you are a soccer fan, you will want to purchase this book just to read in detail the gripping story of Erwin's experience. It started with a phone call. Erwin said yes to accepting a ticket to the World Cup 1 week before the event. He was chosen because when two brothers realized that one couldn't make it, they thought about who in the world would put their life on hold to go to this game. And his name came up. So he said yes without visa or a place to stay. He kept on saying yes, even though he was being denied a visa and a place to stay. And he continued to say yes until every circumstance chose to agree with him and said yes too. Stay the course. Erwin shares the importance of decision making. Each of us has a principle that defines us. And if you notice that you're constantly in a state of regret, it may mean that you need a seismic shift in your guiding life principles. And one that will change your life forever is to refuse to stay behind. So if you ever want a particular principle for life, refuse to stay behind. Decide ahead of time. Do not allow yourself to be paralyzed in the moment with indecision. Know what you're about. Know what your life is given to. Know what matters to you and always move toward that direction. People are constantly praying about everything, and what's happening is that they may be doing too much talking and not enough listening. The point of prayer actually is response. So with that, we are going to move on to a very fun and quick game or activity called Decide Ahead of Time. And I really like this one. So you need pen and paper. Please unmute. This is going to be a lot of fun. So on your paper, write numbers 1 through 7. Just make a list. Numbers 1 through 7. And I want you to write the answer yes or no. You're making a decision before you even hear the question. Go ahead and fill out all 7 with a yes or no, however, how many times you want to write yes, however many times you want to write no. You cannot change your answer because you've already made a decision and you have to stick with it no matter if you agree with the answer after I ask the question. So I ask a question and each of you have to give me your answer. All right, Jessie, were you able to do that? Numbers 1 through 7, you have to say yes, no, or yes, 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 no, 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 or all no's, all yeses, whatever it is. Do you have that, Jessie?
I don't.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. If you can, yeah, that's all right. Don't worry about it. Okay, here it is. Yeah, just have fun with it. First question. Are you rude? What's your answer on your paper? Or on your...
Yes.
No.
Jessie, you can just shout to us an answer.
Okay, so what's the question?
Are you rude?
Are you rude?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
It has to be yes or no.
No.
That's hard to do.
Yes or no. This is the power of decision making.
Yes.
Okay. Second question. Do you ever cheat? Answer what's on your paper, please.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Are you a redhead?
Yeah, no.
I kind of am a little bit.
What's your answer? But what did you write down on the paper?
Yes.
Okay. Orlando?
I said no.
All right. Jessie?
Hi, Papa.
All right. Do you remember your dreams?
Yes.
I wrote yes.
Can you take a walk with me?
Yes.
I wrote no.
Are you afraid to answer the next question?
No.
Yes.
I wrote yes.
And the last question, do you really love me?
Yes.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah, so those are the 7 questions. And as you go through this, hopefully you kind of get that sense of what it's like to stick to your answer, to stick to your decision, even though you may not agree with something. And that is what will make us really, really powerful in being able to live the best lives that we want to, because it means that you're not going to be afraid of failing. Yes, you made a decision. Okay, it didn't work out. Then you just move ahead. And you will become experts at making decisions for your lives if you practice making the decision ahead of time. All right? Awesome. Thank you for participating. All right, I am going to move on. Let's do this. Chapter 6. Did you think we would get here so fast? And this one was about act like your life depends on it. And normally when we hear a statement like that, we think it's going to be about urgency. But actually, Irwin superbly describes this as proof of life versus proof of existence. So that is what this chapter is about. Irwin found himself on this mandatory trip because of his wife that he didn't want to take. He had other businesses to take care of. He had other trips he could go on, and his wife was just on him about going with her to the Becker Valley, where tens of thousands of refugees escaped with their lives, leaving homes, communities, and a way of life. Before entering the camp, Irwin and his wife, Kim, had to fill out forms. And one of the forms was entitled Proof of Life. These were supposed to be statements and answers that supposedly no one else would know except the person filling out the form. And this is just in case something happened to them. They needed to say that, yes, there's proof of life that this person was here. And in thinking about what he wanted to state as his proof of life, he realized that what they were actually asking for was not about the quality of life that he lived, but rather it was just about proof of existence, that you once lived on the planet. And so this sparked a realization that people actually live with this sense of proof of life or just proof of existence. And I want us to go ahead and let us talk about this. If you were to ask the people closest to you, what would you say are the 3 most powerful proofs of my life? What would one answer be? So again, we're going to ask some persons who are closest to you. And I'll go up to them and I say, hey, for Rolando, what are the 3 most powerful proofs of his life? What's one thing they would say?
Creative.
Creative in what way?
Being creative because I like to use my imagination and I like to draw and paint using that imagination.
And what has that done anything for anyone else, your creativity?
I believe it's inspired some people in my life.
Good. Yeah. So that is an area, if you know that it has impact on people, that's an area to strengthen and to continue to invest in, right? Awesome. Chantel, what's one thing that people would say, this is a proof of life? A powerful one.
I don't know. I guess my first response would be just the relationships that I have is kind of proof of life, because I feel like life is something that's shared. Yeah, I think that's my answer.
Okay, can you go a bit further? What is it about how you're able to handle relationships, keep relationships, that makes it a powerful thing, a gift that you have?
Probably my I guess like I don't know. Maybe I should think of a different answer. Maybe my sense of humor is a better answer because I see how that plays out in my relationships, like my desire to make people around me laugh and be happy.
That's still, although you're using humor, it's still a part of the strength that you have in your relationship building.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that like, yeah, I think, I don't know. Does that?
Yes, it does. And what I mean, we have spoken, so I will see usually some things about people's skills. I think something like that, if you're looking in regards to your future, maybe you want it to be something in regards to relationship building, or something where you're actually dealing with people, because you do have this gift to create and maintain friendships beautifully and over time. That is something that is needed in this world and the mess that we're in today. You can end up being a relationship expert of sorts in any field. So yeah, I would say look into more of that part of who you are and understand it and build upon it. Nothing beats raw treasure that's within us. So let's not let these parts of us go to waste. Jesse?
Yes.
What would a close friend say is evidence of proof of life for you?
I've been thinking about this question since I read it. It's just a tricky one, but don't know. It's like I don't know. It's like I have had some bad experiences, like when you're good with people and people stab you from the back, and then when and the people you think won't be good, but they end up being good with you. So it's just a confusion there. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Well, something that I do know about Jessie is there is an excitement in of her personality, of her life. She's very, very contagious. If she's physically around you, she is able to see the most beautiful things out of things that we now think is like, oh, that's childish or whatever. But actually that spark that Jessie has, I hope she never loses it, because it brightens people's day. And it really is something that can ignite others. Jesse, you could easily be someone who may be in a disaster area where things have gone really, really bad. I can see you being a different kind of first responder, one who comes in with beauty and innocence and this excitement for life, and just have it be kind of like, like how they pump the heart
yeah.
in those movies. I think you have that ability to shock people back into, okay, things don't have to be this awful. things can be beautiful. I can find something sweet in the world. And so with the experiences that you personally have had that have been devastating, I would say please guard that side of you. And not become like the negative things that you have experienced. We need Jessies in this world. Like when she sees, you know, a puppy or a teddy bear.
Yeah.
She's known for it, and she is definitely loved for that kind of personality. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
For me, I think my ability to drop things to help someone else. Once I see that someone needs help, I do have the ability to just close off everything else that's going on in my life. Even if I'm having a rough time, I'm able to just completely shut that off and leave it for another day, or week or month, and attend to someone else. That level of caregiving, I think, has to be a gift. I don't think it's normal. And I do see it actually as a generational thing. My great grandmother was actually someone who saved an entire family from being executed in Honduras, Spanish Honduras, when she was an operator, and she overheard a group of men, I guess mafia gang, I don't know, who were going to execute a whole family, and she contacted them, and they were able to leave the country and escape, and their lives were spared. So I am grateful for this, just this kind of heritage that has come down, and I walk into that. So yeah, I think that is definitely one of my proof of life statements. All right, let's go into the challenge that Erwin has for us before we end this presentation. Most of us are not choosing between life and death, rather between existence and death. We are so afraid of death and all its relatives, such as failure and disappointment and injury, that we actually never choose to live. Sometimes it takes a desperate condition to make us choose life. Stop drowning in despair and bemoaning your circumstances. Stop using the present crisis as an excuse to shrink back from the challenge before you. Pick up your arrow and strike. Everything we do matters. Sometimes you pray, and sometimes you're the answer to prayer. The last arrow moves you past what God will do for you to what God will do through you. And here ends the presentation of our chapters 4 through 6. All right. So, thoughts, questions, anything. It's much shorter. Do you feel like you got enough out of these chapters, or do you feel like I need some more? Is there anything you feel like you would want me to expand on? Any of the ideas, anything that came out to you?
Definitely understand where we're going in these chapters, as far as pushing ahead and leaving behind what's not necessary in order to move ahead. At least that concept. And then looking at yourself, and then looking at your strengths and applying that. I mean, because it's relatively short, I'm not sure if I needed more, but it made me think a little bit about especially the last exercise we did. Made me think a lot about what my proof of life is and things like that. So I tend to not think too much about what I could offer people sometimes because uh, it kind of sounds like HR talk sometimes. It's like 'cause they always ask those questions. So, oh, every time they do a review every year, they always ask, what have you benefited in the group? Like, what can you do? What are
I
your
hate those questions.
attributes? Yeah, because every year it's like you're trying not to say the same thing because you don't know who's reading them. So, so I mean, but definitely, like I'm a definite people person. That should have been the one thing I changed instead of saying, oh, using my abilities or using my talent. Like the one thing that really, like, I think is a really good attribute is like I love people. So, and I love to see people working together and not working against each other. So I've been known to be like, I'll say I'm kind of like seen as like a glue. Like people told me I'm the glue in the family. Like whenever there's like,
Awesome.
yeah. So, and I like to be that way everywhere I go. Like even at work, I like to be a positive, uh, be the positive person that comes in. I always say hi to everyone. I say good morning. I give a high five. I give a pump, whatever. And people are like, I've had people next to me always say, you know what, man? He goes, I love your positivity because like every time I come in, it doesn't matter if I feel like it doesn't look like it's gonna be a good day for me. And he goes, I get a high from you or a fist pump or whatever, and that gets me going. So
That's
so it
awesome.
makes me good. I don't do it for them, I just do it because that's who I am. But like I love the result of it because like I believe like I'm the type of person I love working with people. I love being a part of a team. I love interaction. I love camaraderie. That's what I love. I love the idea of camaraderie. So yeah. So that's something that I always take with me everywhere I go, even on, you know, making friends or working in different groups or, job interviews, whatever. So there you go.
Awesome. All right. Jesse or Chantal?
I guess I hesitate to say that like this section wasn't enough because I feel like this section kind of built off the first section, and I imagine that the next session is going to build off this section because like, but I guess I would say something that I'm looking forward to hopefully being delved into is what it actually looks like putting your past on fire. Because, or what it actually, like, does that mean, just because I'm at that point in my life where I'm kind of like moving from one chapter to the next.
Right.
And does burning your past mean just thinking about it in a different way, thinking about success in a different way?
Okay.
Because that's kind of what I'm going through right now is like, if I'm thinking about my future self and thinking about making a future that is better than my past, does that mean in part that I need to rethink what I think success looks like and what life is supposed to look like? Like sometimes, especially now that I have so much free time because I'm not working, is like, you kind of realize how much time you dedicate to work and how sometimes, a lot of us don't have good work-life balances, especially in New York City.
Right.
And going forward, as much as I want a great job with all kinds of great things, I'm also realizing that, like, is that life? You know what I mean? Like, and so that's what I'm looking forward to, hopefully, is like, when the rubber meets the road, when you're letting go of your past and working towards your future, how do I put that into practice? Because I'm sure he doesn't literally mean like burn your house down.
No, no. Let me answer that because I have the book right here. He gave one analogy which was really good. He was taking a trip, and he was going to Hong Kong, and his baggage ended up in Cairo, Egypt.
Okay.
And so he said that in that moment, you kind of have to decide, are you going to allow the idea of your baggage not coming with you to sour the trip that you have? Or are you going to be able to just let it go?
Mm-hmm.
That was an idea of how you let go of the past. And so he was given an analogy that too many times we put immense value on things,
Mm-hmm.
and so we hold on too tight to it, and we're unable to let go. And in holding on to something that you've decided is valuable, which is not a relationship or anything like that, but maybe for some people they refuse to leave out of a particular community, a particular club, a particular, well, these are my friends. I'm not going to have this kind of friendship if I move across the country. Whatever that is, sometimes we put so much value on it and refuse to let it go, and it can sour everything else that is in our future. And he said because of that, he has really learned how to travel light and to be willing to let go of anything, including his baggage. And so in his head, he had gone through the experience enough times to say, okay, I've lost my baggage. I can get toothbrush. I can get another shirt. I can do that. Instantly, he's able to work out how to still continue in his future while letting the bags go. Something else here that he says, like in on page 55, if for no other reason, he was talking about baggage. Let me just back it up. One thing I've learned after traveling over 1 million miles across the world is that you can pretty much do without everything you think you must have. Mm. After all, it's just your baggage. And I've discovered over a lifetime is that what most of us keep dragging around everywhere we go, things that we consider treasures, but they're not treasure. They're just baggage. So if for no other reason, if it's important to set your past on fire, to set yourself free from all the things that you keep holding on to that keep holding on to you. All right. So maybe it's the idea of a title.
Yeah.
For instance, I have seen people not willing to give up a particular job and going to another one because on their resume, this title looks better than the one they're going into. And the one they're going into then looks like a demotion. They don't think it's something that's going to allow them to build up themselves and to have a flashy kind of resume. So they're not willing to take on something that would probably be able to thrust them into a marvelous future, but they're holding on to something like a title, a job description, and they're not willing to go for something else. As I heard, there's a African singer, and she says, when you get to a certain age, and she said, 40-ish, you get used to gliding and reigning. You get used to having things kind of just move with a smoothness, and you no longer have the ability to truly start new. It's like you don't have the energy and the gusto to do something completely brand new because you've gotten to a point where you're just kind of going with the flow. But as one lovely couple that I always like to listen to, Gabe's and Anna Deku, they say we don't go with the flow. Dead fish go with the flow. we go against the current, you know. And so yeah, it does take work.
Yeah,
it does take work. So for you, if you choose to step out in what you've been considering doing, that you are burning the past. It doesn't mean that you said sayonara to the people in your life here. That's burning bridges. But it is saying that I can start a new chapter. Everything about my life does not have to look like one string of pearls. I can have a completely different necklace. Forget necklace. I can have a headband. I can have something completely different. And I think that's what he's talking about. Not allowing things to hold you is really what burning the past is. So for persons who have had their houses unfortunately burned down, they have a very, very real sense of everything that I thought I knew and I had to have and I wouldn't be happy without. Now I'm facing a life to build a completely new life without these things. It happens with many different kinds of disasters, flooding, that happened to an aunt of mine. The entire basement was covered in water. So she lost everything, every family photo. I mean, and those are hard things to lose when you have an emotional tie to it. But did it take away her life? Some people do drown in their misery of loss, and they are actually not able to push past it.
Yeah, actually that reminds me of this movie called The Darjeeling Limited. And you were talking about baggage, and it's a story of these three brothers who come together after their father has died.
Mm-hmm.
And they go on this trip together to kind of reunite, and they're all bringing these suitcases that like belonged to their dad. They're like these really nice vintage suitcases. And there's a scene at the end of the movie where, so they're in India and they have to take trains everywhere. And at the end of the movie, they're all trying to rush to catch this train. So they're running behind the train and they're like about to miss it, and they have to throw their baggage away to like get onto the train. And it's supposed to be like metaphorical,
yes,
leaving their past and their bad relationship with their father and all that stuff.
Wow.
They jump on the train, and yeah. So I guess like it benefits me to think about my past in relation to my future, not just as like an isolated past.
Yeah, and your past does not mean that everything in it is bad.
Yeah.
And I think Erwin wants to make that very clear. It doesn't mean that everything is bad, but that's what it does feel like. It does feel like you're setting it on fire to move on to something new. Jessie, any thoughts?
Yes, like she said, like that, pushing away, like, or throwing the past, like, or the bad relationships in the past and moving forward. And that is true because, I believe that you need to let go of the bad things and need to let go of the past in order to bring something or catch the future. Because it's like, if you're holding on to something, it's reality even in your hands. If you're holding on to something, you cannot hold something else because your hands are already full. You cannot hold something else, so you need to leave that in order to catch something else. So you need to let go of the bad things, and especially the past. And like Safiya said, everything in the past is not bad. And it's like, even the bad stuff, it teaches us something. It makes us a strong person, and it prepares us for something worse. So the good stuff just makes you soft, like, okay, this is going good, it's normal. Like, yeah. But when you really face something harsh or bad, that's when life hits you, and you go like, okay, like, I did it, like, I've survived it, so now I can face something worse than this. And then when you face something worse, then you go like, okay, I made it through this also. Now, you get stronger with time.
Awesome. Talk about perspective. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So we have come to the end of this recording. Thank you very much. Next week, we are ending the book, chapters 7 through 9, 3 weeks. I don't know about you, but typically I don't get through books. So I'm glad that we're doing more of a book experience and not just reading, but allowing the words to turn into actions for our own lives and having a different experience of life from it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Bye.